What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 170 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast on this Tuesday, July 7, 2026. I'm your host, Zach Malum, but before we get started, please subscribe below, follow all of my social accounts. Let's start things off in the world of basketball, as the New York Knicks have made a move in response to losing Mitchell Robinson. Of course, the Celtics signed Robinson last week, a 3-year, $47.4 million deal, a deal that the Knicks were not willing to give to Robinson, unwilling to go over the second apron. James Dolan was really adamant on that after the Knicks won the title. So in response, they get Andre Drummond on a 1-year, $3.9 million deal. And they signed him on Friday. I think looking at this deal for this Knicks team, they replace Robinson with Drummond. Not really the same kind of impact, especially when it comes to the defensive side. I do think the rebounding part of it is obviously huge. And Drummond's been one of the best rebounders in all of basketball since he came into the league. I think looking at this Knicks roster, they lose Ariel Hukporti as well behind Karl Anthony Towns. So you're still trying to replace the loss of Mitchell Robinson. It's not going to be just Drummond down low to replace Robinson behind Towns. And of course, you look at Towns and the foul trouble that he dealt with. Robinson was a huge piece for the Knicks all season long, especially in the postseason, the last couple of games. Massive offensive board in Game 5 that really closed out the title for the New York Knicks. So they still have a lot to replace when it comes to Mitchell Robinson, but a little bit of it comes with Andre Drummond, who's going to be 33 at the start of this upcoming season. So you're not expecting him to be as agile as a guy in Mitchell Robinson, who's, of course, younger than Drummond. A 1-year deal it is. You're trying to figure out what you're able to do after it as well with the Knicks bigs. Of course, Karl Anthony Towns here for a long time, but Drummond here for 1 season, see how it goes, and then you go from there. Drummond also played for the Sixers recently, so they're almost swapping teams in the Eastern Conference, or specifically in the East, where you have the Boston Celtics, you have the Philadelphia 76ers, and you have the New York Knicks, who are basically just having a triangle, moving players around. Everybody's going everywhere. It's just a little bit of a mix-up here in the Eastern Conference. So we'll see what happens with the Knicks make any more moves, whether it's through a trade or, again, through free agency. But they knock off one check mark that they needed in free agency, and that's trying to replace Mitchell Robinson at backup center behind Karl Anthony Towns. Andre Drummond comes in, and we'll see what happens as the Knicks roll on throughout free agency and the NBA offseason. But let's shift things to baseball. Yeah, as both New York teams were in action this weekend, and we start things up in the Bronx as the New York Yankees took on the Minnesota Twins at Yankee Stadium on the weekend. Yankees came in really poor, and it was on a 7-game losing streak that the Yankees were. Then they go into Friday's game against Minnesota. Gerrit Cole on the mound, and the Yankees finally snapped that losing streak. 7-game skid ends there with the Yankees winning 5-2 on Friday. Gerrit Cole, 5 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned with no walks, 7 Ks. They were able to get to Paredes on the other side. The Yankees were. Trent Grisham hits a solo bomb in the first to tie it at 1, and then Ben Rice with a 2-run bomb in the 3rd inning to give the Yankees a 3-1 lead. Minnesota tacked on a run to make it 3-2, but then you look at Jose Caballero coming up big. The People's shortstop does it again. He hits an RBI single in the bottom of the 7th to give the Yankees a 4-2 lead. Grisham with a sac fly to make it 5-2. That's how it would finish as the Yankees finally win a game, and they defeat the Twins on Friday 5-2, the final. Then you look at Saturday's game, and it was not as great for the Yankees. Pretty typical of what it's been recently, and they don't have a typical starter on the mound. It's Brendan Beck, who only got his 2nd career start in this game, and it was not a great outing for him. It was actually his 2nd career game, his 1st career start for the Yankees, and not a great one for Brendan Beck, and one that he'll probably want to forget, even though it's his first major league start. He goes 3 2/3, 5 hits, 5 earned with 2 walks, 3 Ks. Not great from the Yankee starter in this one. The ERA at 9.45 this season. He did pitch a little bit better when it came to just getting deeper into a game and giving the Yankees some length at the top of their rotation, but not enough in the end. And Minnesota jumped all over them. It was 6-0 in the blink of an eye in the fourth inning. And that's when the Yankees started to chip away, started to come back, but they did not have enough gas in the tank to get back in this one. So they lose it 11-4 on Saturday. And then this was the real stinker on Sunday. And they're going up against a strong pitcher in Joe Ryan, one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. The ERA at 3.36 this year, even with how bad Minnesota has been at some stages. He goes 7 innings, 3 hits, no runs, with 1 walk and 9 Ks in the game. Just unstoppable. One of the best in the game, and he proved it in this one. Ryan Weathers on the other side really struggled again, and the ERA is up to 4.29 on the year after really starting off strong for the Yankees. Weathers goes 4 innings, 6 hits, 4 earned with 2 walks and 6 Ks, and in the end, it's just not going to win you baseball games, the starting pitching in this series, and Garrett Cole was solid enough, only allowed 2 earned, but the rest of the guys, Brendan Beck, then Ryan Weathers, and the Yankees, especially when they are struggling, not a great recipe. When they allow runs early in games, they cannot come back, and they lose 2 out of 3 to a bad Minnesota Twins team. They've now lost 3 consecutive series against pretty bad baseball teams. The Boston Red Sox, the Detroit Tigers, and now the Minnesota Twins. Really bad sign for this Yankees team. And when you're losing 9 of 10 to those kind of teams, it's really telling you you're in a slump right now. But the Yankees have to bounce back, and they did so. Give them credit. On Monday, the Yankees ended up starting a 3-game set against the Tampa Bay Rays, 4-game set, against the Tampa Bay Rays. And it started with Cam Schlittler on the mound on Monday, and he was pretty darn good in this one. A guy who has been a little shaky recently. The ERA was at like 1.5 or 1.4, and it jumped all the way up over 2. He got a couple of teams that jumped on him in the Red Sox as well as the Tigers, but he really settled down in this one. 8 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned with no walks, 8 Ks, 101 pitches. The ERA down to 2.01 now. He just handed the ball off to David Bednar, who locked it down in the 9th inning, and the Yankees end up defeating the Rays 5-1, and it came down to, once again, Jose Caballero. The People's shortstop hits a 3-run bomb in the 5th to give the Yankees a 3-0 lead. It was 3-1 after Palacios hit an RBI single for the Rays in the 5th inning, and then Jose Caballero does it again. How about 2 for Jose Caballero? And he ends up giving the Yankees a 4-1 lead with a solo shot in the top of the 8th inning. Ben Rice adds on with the solo bomb himself, and it's 5-1 Yankees. That's how it would finish. Really all about Cam Schlittler in this one. And then, of course, Jose Caballero stepping up when the Yankees needed it the most on offense. They get a great game from their offense in this one. So the Yankees win the first game of the 4-game set, and they go into the next game. It all starts tonight with a 6:40 start down in Tampa. Will Warren gets the ball for the Yankees, 7-3, 3.73 ERA on the year. It's Ian Seymour on the other side, 5-1, 4.02 ERA this season with a 1.09 whip. Tough pitcher, to go up against in this one with Ian Seymour, the lefty, pitching very well, and the Rays in general pitching very well. One of the best staffs, if not the best staff in all of baseball. They've been terrific this year, and they are 16 games over 500, so a big series in terms of the American League East as well. Yankees already got the first game of the 4-game set, and they'll look to continue that tonight. Warren against Seymour. Make sure you tune into that one later. On the other side of New York, the New York Mets were also in action this weekend, and it started off pretty poor for the New York Mets as they had lost 5 consecutive series heading into a series at Truist Park down in Atlanta on the weekend. And it started on Friday where the Mets lost the opener. Christian Scott was on the mound in this one, and not a great outing in the end 4 innings, 2 hits, 3 earned with 4 walks, 7 Ks, 82 pitches. The ERA at 3.49 now. And the Braves were just able to get to them, and they were really good. Their pitching staff, talk about the best pitching staff in all of baseball. They've been so good all throughout this year. And Grant Holmes, one of their underrated starters, an ERA under 4 this year, and he only allows 1 earned to the Mets in this one. It turned out that the Mets killers in Ozzie Albies and Matt Olson started chipping away, and that's what the difference was in this game after Juan Soto tied it in the 3rd inning with a 2-run bomb, tied it at 2, and then Ozzie Albies hits a solo bomb. Olson then hits 2 solo bombs in response. It's 5-2 in favor of the Braves. The Mets got a run in the 9th inning with Bo Bichette hitting an RBI single. But that's really been the story for the Mets this season. They actually had a weird outing from Christian Scott, I would say. It's put down as a bad outing because he only went 4 innings, but he did have 7 strikeouts, and it was just mistake pitches that got the best of him. It was Michael Harris, the second in the 2nd inning, hits a 2-run bomb, and then it was Ozzie Albies in the 3rd inning with the solo bomb. So 2 mistakes for Scott, and that's how it's going for the Mets. They cannot get a response on offense until late in games. Of course, Juan Soto helps them in that. They get the response from Soto, who's been one of the best players in all of baseball, and rightfully so, starting at left field for the National League All-Stars in this upcoming All-Star game, All-Star weekend down in Philadelphia next week. But looking at the rest of the team, it's a struggle, and a lot of these guys cannot step up when the Mets need it the most in runners at scoring position. They did well in the end in this game, but for the most part, they struggled in this one against Atlanta. Then you go into Saturday's game, and this one was a complete blowout. Sean Manaea was on the mound and just had his worst outing of the year. 5 innings, 6 hits, 6 earned, 1 walk, 4 Ks. Not going to cut it. And the Mets end up getting crushed. They were down 6-0 in the 4th inning, just in the blink of an eye. And that's not a great recipe when you got Chris Sale on the other side, who had an ERA coming in at home at Truist Park this year of 1.09. The Mets got to him a little bit throughout, so you got to give them credit. Tyrone Taylor hits a solo bomb. Mark Vientos hits a 2-run bomb. All of a sudden, it's 6-3, but that was it. And then the Braves just went on an absolute tear, really crushed the bullpen of the New York Mets, and they end up putting up 14 runs in this game. Just not a great day for the Mets, and they continue to struggle. 14-3 is the final as Chris Sale gets his 9th win of the year. Manaea falls to 1-4 on the season. Then you go into Sunday's game. Can't get any worse, can it? Of course, Nolan McLean on the mound. So that's the positive for the New York Mets. And he had a great outing in this game. It did start off a little shaky, especially with a lot of these guys and the defense not helping him out. He ends up giving up 3 runs. Only 2 of them were earned. But the first inning was the problem for Nolan McLean. All of a sudden, the Mets are down 3-1 in the blink of an eye. But give credit to this Mets team as they continued to chip away. And in the 2nd inning, they got a lot of runs. They put up a 4 spot in inning 2. And a lot of it came down to Francisco Lindor, who hits a big RBI single after A.J. Ewing hits a solo bomb. The clutch factor starting to come in maybe for Francisco Lindor. And how about Juan Soto? Talk about clutch. Hits a 2-run single to give the Mets a 5-3 lead. The Mets will go where Soto goes. It's that kind of area in the season right now, and it's been that kind of year for Juan Soto as well. The Mets chipped away in the 9th inning as well. Give credit to them. They put up a 5 spot to really almost put this game out of reach. And you would think, yeah, they put this game out of reach. Not just yet. As the Braves chip away in the 9th inning, the bottom of the 9th, they almost come back from 7 runs down in the 9th inning. They put up a 6 spot and made it real close in the end. Devin Williams, though, gets the strikeout to close out the game. And the Mets win it 10-9 on Sunday. Then you go into Monday's game. It's the 4-game set, the wraparound on the weekend. And this one looked like another Mets loss in the making, but it turned out that the Braves end up giving up a massive bomb to Juan Soto. And Juan Soto has his first big moment, I would say, as a New York Met. The big clutch type of moment. He hits a 3-run bomb with 2 outs in the top of the 9th to give the Mets a 5-3 lead. Of course, it was squandered, because that's the Mets this year, by Matt Olson, who hits a 2-run bomb off of Devin Williams in the bottom of the 9th. 5-5 it is, but then Louis Torrens stepping up when he comes off the bench. He's been so good for the Mets on offense this year. The OPS is over 1,100 when he comes off the bench this season, and he hits a 2-run double into left field to give the Mets a 7-5 lead. The Braves responded with a run off of Luke Weaver. That ends his 25 1/3 inning scoreless streak. What a run it's been for Luke Weaver. And really, you can't even completely count it because it's the ghost runner, but the Mets end up putting him in the ball game, and that streak goes to waste. The ERA still, because the run was not earned, it sits at 1.89. So the Mets win it in 10, 7-6 the final, and they continue to roll on in 2026. It's not a great sign right now that they're 15 games under 500, but you split a series against the Braves. You win 2 tough games, and they win 2 games in a row for the first time in a long time. And they go into a 3-game set against another pretty bad team here in the Kansas City Royals, a team that's really struggled as well this season. 17 games under 500 the Royals are, but they put up 15 runs yesterday against Christopher Sanchez. 15-1. They beat the Phillies in Kansas City, and they beat the Phillies 2 out of 3 in the 3-game set out in Kansas City on the weekend. Then you look at this series, though, and it all starts tonight. The Mets have not announced a pitcher for this game, but they are going to face off against old friend Seth Lugo in this one. Lugo has had a solid year, not a great year. 3-6, 4.20 ERA. Just hasn't been good enough, and he's gotten trucked in the first inning so far this season. Something to look out for tonight. Mets undecided still, but we'll see what happens. Kodai Senga could be on the mound for a large portion of this game. I know that scares a lot of Met fans, but they really don't have any other option right now, and that's what it's been for the Mets this season. So they go into this game and this series against the struggling Royals. The Mets 15 games under 500, the Royals 17 games under 500. A snooze fest of a series. We'll see what happens. It all starts tonight. 7:10 start out at Citi Field. Let's finish things off today in the world of soccer. And I know it's a little bit of a new topic here, but the United States was playing against Belgium in the round of 16 in the FIFA World Cup. This one took place up in Seattle in front of the U.S. home crowd, and it just did not go the U.S.'s way in this game. And I think the big reason for that is, of course, the U.S. is not on the level of a lot of those other teams in the FIFA World Cup. A lot of belief in this team, and I think, oh my God, they're at home, so get them over the line. It's just not going to work out for this U.S. men's national team. It hasn't ever, really. The furthest they've gotten was the quarterfinal in 2002. They haven't been there since, or haven't really been close to it since. They end up getting knocked out in the round of 16 in embarrassing fashion. They lose 4-1, and Belgium kind of trolled the U.S. men's national team in the end. Of course, the whole storyline with Fuller and Balogun, who ends up playing in this game. Maybe should have not played in this game. I think going back to that red card, I do think it was the correct call to give him a red card in that spot. I do think the suspension as well probably should have stood, but it didn't really matter for the U.S. men's national team, and Belgium just took it to the U.S. team. And looking at it in the end, is it a disappointment? Probably. This game is a disappointment. 4-1 on your home turf is a pretty disappointing showing from this team, especially with a full, healthy 11 in front of them. I think looking at Christian Pulisic, he did not have a good tournament. I know he went out midway through this game due to injury, but it's not like he played well throughout this game or throughout this tournament anyway. And Balogun was probably the top player on the U.S. men's national team throughout this tournament. He was basically nowhere to be found throughout this game. And that part of that has to do with the service that he was provided from his midfielders in this game, but just not enough from the U.S. men's national team that goes home, or stays home in this case, 4-1. They lose it to Belgium, and Belgium, they have plenty of good players, but I think the biggest part about it was two of their top players, Kevin De Bruyne, Jeremy Doku, not in the lineup in this game. I'm also forgetting Romelu Lukaku, the top scorer in Belgian history. He's on the bench to start this game. So those three guys, Lukaku, De Bruyne, as well as Doku, not playing or not starting in this game, and they were still down 3-1, the U.S. men's national team. Just a big gulf between the U.S. and those other teams in the FIFA World Cup. That's just what it comes down to. The U.S. played a tough team, and they got trucked in Seattle. 4-1 the final, and the U.S. is out, but make sure you tune in as we got some great games continuing to go on. What a World Cup it's been in the United States, and what a job by the United States in hosting this year's FIFA World Cup. It's been great so far, and it's continuing on as plenty of more games. The quarterfinals, the semis, and then the final, July 19th at MetLife Stadium. We'll make sure to tune into that one. But the U.S. goes home after a 4-1 loss in the round of 16. They are knocked out by Belgium on Monday. But that will do it for episode 170 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast. Please subscribe below. I've been Zach Malamud. Thanks for watching, and talk to you all on Friday.